Hey guys, welcome to Digital Memories. I am Justin. This is my brother Jacob. Say hi, Jacob.
How's it going?
This is our podcast where we talk about gaming, TV, anything nerd culture or tech culture that may interest you. And like any good headshot video, we may or may not be wearing pants. So anyway, let's get into it. Today, we think we're going to talk about competitive gaming and not like modern day esports. We're talking about old school, sitting on the couch together, or, you know, just a good old brotherly love of duking it out in games against each other at home. So we talked briefly about doing this. We haven't told each other what we're going to, you know, the games we're going to pick, but I have 3 games in mind. Okay. That I have distinct. Well, I mean, obviously I have like 20 games probably that we were competitive in, right? But I've got at least 3 in my head, and I want to see if you know, if you can pick any of those 3 out. I'm going to write them down in just a second, actually, so we can show the audience if anybody's, you know, on YouTube and you're not listening somewhere else. But
It'll be really interesting because honestly, we talked about this and we talked about 3. And I mean, I can think of lots of games we were competitive in, kind of, you know, but I'm really only thinking of a couple of games, to be honest, when we talk about me and you. You know, then when we include our friends and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that this episode as well. But so it'll be interesting to see what you're thinking here.
Well, and it's funny you say that because yes, obviously growing up we played every type of game, right? I mean, obviously, as we've talked about in the previous episodes, all the way back to NES games, where many of the NES games were just about keeping score, right? Especially if they were arcade type game. But you know, we played any games like that. We played racing games, we played fighting games, shooting games. You know, all the genres or whatever. So I'm thinking specifically of games, though, that we went kind of head to head, back and forth, whatever. So it might be different than what you're thinking about. So anyway, I don't know. Did you write anything down? Or are you not going to, or whatever?
I
you don't
didn't.
have to. It doesn't matter. I'm going to write down now just so I can show the audience and see if we actually match.
I mean, I have a piece of paper here, I guess, and a pencil, so I could write something down, I suppose.
And it'll be funny because you'll probably mention a game like I didn't even think of, maybe, and vice versa. But who knows?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, and I think that'll make that interesting. I probably didn't make that, but you know what? I'm going to write this bigger so people on the camera can see.
Well, yeah, mine might not be big enough either. That's what she said.
Wait, are we writing all of them or just one?
I'm going to write all 3 right now.
And they're going to be on the same piece of paper?
Yeah.
Well, I just did one. I just did one on one piece of paper. It's all right. We can flip. I can flip through my things.
Yeah, you can show all of them or whatever.
Like I said, I got 2. I'm only going 2 because I don't really think of another one that I think of just me and you competing.
It doesn't just have to just be me and you. It could be friends too.
Right.
One of mine is more than just me and you.
Well, okay, one of them I'll do that I know is a lot of our friends.
That will probably be the same between us, is my guess. And it's funny because the other 2 of mine are very similar and from a similar time frame.
Well, no, see, I'm very interested because one of mine, like, I have some very good memories of competition and what was going on in my life at that point in time. And I almost think that you won't. I almost think that you won't pick one of these. Okay,
I don't know. We'll see. It'll be
all right.
Funny.
First one.
You want me to say mine?
Say it, yeah.
Wave Race.
That's right here. Wave Race 64.
Well, yeah, okay. I don't want to show mine because I have all 3 on here right now, but I'll show it just a second. Okay. All right. Number 2, 1080-degree snowboarding.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that. No, that's a good one. No, my number 2 was
Street Fighter. Okay. Yeah. And see, that's like an audible mention for me. Yeah.
Street Fighter 2.
Turbo Edition. Right?
Right. Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the Super Nintendo.
Right.
And then my last one,
Mario Kart 64.
Is Mario Kart 64.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So yeah, my list, it's impossible to see all of them at the same time, I guess, but
there we go. Yeah, I see
1080-degree and Mario Kart. So we were we had 2 of them the same. Wave Race and Mario Kart. Now 1080-degree. Okay, so you put Street Fighter. And so Street Fighter was totally an audible mention for me, like in my head, that we went back and forth. But we also, you know, some of our friends came in and we did that back and forth and stuff like that. But I don't know. We can talk about more in a minute, but 1080-degree snowboarding, dude, I don't know if you remember, just like Wave Race, we went back and forth.
Yes.
Just
and I kind of forget that game exists sometimes, which is funny because I thought it was a really good game. There's a great story about that game too, that we'll get into it. But yeah, I mean, I kind of forgot that game existed. And you're right. We competed on that the same way as we did in Wave Race. Let's just start that with Wave Race. So Wave Race 64, one of the early games for the Nintendo 64, and we were very happy to play it because Nintendo had a slow drip feed. Honestly, most of the Nintendo 64's life was like a slow drip. And so we cherished each game we got, especially in the beginning.
You mean of new releases?
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yes, a slow drip of new releases. So
Yeah.
like day one, you could get Mario, Super Mario 64, and Pilot Wing 64. That was it. 2 games. And it came out in September. And if I remember right, Wave Race came out in October, I think. And so I'm pretty sure I did purchase that with my own money. And in fact, I know I did.
I don't know if that
And then after
matters,
that, we
but
got like Killer Instinct Gold and stuff. But yeah, so we got that game, and I was actually working my first job ever. Well, I mean, I worked for our grandpa on the farm and stuff, but I worked at a grocery store. And so I would go to that grocery store after work. And so while I was at work, Justin was at home trying to beat all my records. And then I
yeah.
would come home from the grocery store and boot up Wave Race, and he had stolen all my time trial records. Or remember the stunt courses? You had to do the stunts and
Yeah.
everything.
That's specifically
And
what I'm thinking of. I'm not even thinking about
right.
the races. I was thinking about the stunts.
And yeah, the stunts. And then like I'd be like, oh, and then so I would stay up way too late getting them all back. And some of these times Justin had already gone to bed because we were different enough in age. You know, he had to go ahead and go to bed. And but then the next day while I was at work, he'd be taking them all back. And we just went back and forth like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always that way, right? I mean, obviously we're not world class gaming competitors. You know, I'm sure we didn't set any Guinness records, but it's just funny because sometimes you get that score and you think it can't be beat. You can't do it better. No one can do it better.
Right.
And just like now, you know, the speedrunners that are world class, it's the same way, right? They're always kind of like, well, you might be able to shave off like a second, and then somebody, you know, takes off 5 seconds. But it was the same way, man. We were just like, that was a perfect run. You're not going to beat it. And then the next day, by God, one of us would beat the other, and it was just like, no, how did you do that?
I mean, I remember being so angry a couple times because yes, I did think that was a perfect run. How it's impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible to do better than that.
Right.
And we didn't have the internet. I mean, the internet did exist then, but we didn't have all leaderboards and YouTube. So we don't know what the rest of the people in the world were doing.
Yeah.
But for us, we would just think like, yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. He'll never beat it.
Right.
And then sure enough, the next day you're just, you know, and here's, you know, what the funny thing is, I don't know if you feel this way, but you kind of secretly wanted the other person to beat it a little bit because you didn't want the competition to be over.
Well, I mean, I guess that's partially true, but in the moment you didn't. You wanted
No,
to be
no,
the
not at all,
winner.
not at all. But I remember thinking like why I was at work. I can't wait to get home. Make sure my record's still there. But no.
Yeah. No. I don't to this day, obviously I don't remember who ended up on top. I'm sure it just fizzled out and we moved on to another game and didn't care anymore.
I don't remember. You know, the funny thing is anytime I think about things like this and getting scores and going back and forth is I also think about our friend and, you know, brother like person, Kevin Graves, and me and him went back and forth like this on F-Zero 64. We did the same thing. You know, we'd be at work, we'd come home, we think you couldn't do it better. But his cousin asked to borrow the game and Kevin let him borrow it. And he couldn't beat any of our time. So he called Kevin and he asked if he could erase all the records. and
Why would you even want to do that?
He's like, what? No, why? And he's like, well, because I can't beat any of your times. It's like, but I don't understand because what's that proving?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you got your name up on the screen, I guess, but you know that you didn't earn it. You just erased all the stuff, you know.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. To what goal? I mean, especially because if he's only competing with himself at his house, who cares if he's on the leaderboard? He's just wanting to like play the circuits, you know, or something like that.
Right.
What's funny is that we like you said, we played it so much, but I literally in my head cannot remember like any courses in Wave Race. I remember like the first one, you know, like a sunny beach. And there was one level I remember that was like stormy and it was a little more wavy, but I can't remember anything else other than that fact. And the sunny one, you know, like I think if you did good stuff, some dolphins even like jumped out and jumped with you or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
But like I said, that's the only memory I have. You still have a 64? Do you have that cart? Do you have the games that we had?
I don't know what happened. I obviously sold them, but I have my Nintendo 64 and I have F-Zero X that we mutilated the N64 to get it to work. That's maybe we'll talk about that. We'll save that story for another time. We'll save it for another time. But yeah, I just have that one. My Japanese copy of F-Zero X is all I have. So I obviously
It's
traded
the
them in at
only
some point in
game.
time.
The only game you
Mhm.
have.
In fact, I don't even have a controller because the other day I went to dig out. I was digging out all my systems. I was looking for, after we talked about Fax Xanadu, I was searching for the actual copy, and I have it. I found it, but I was digging out all the systems, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I don't have a controller. It's not like I would have sold all my controllers. It must have got misplaced somewhere.
Yeah.
But
They broke, threw them away
yeah.
or something.
But I have it. I had the N64 and I have F-Zero. That's all. But no, I don't. No, I did play it on the virtual console or whatever we call it on the Switch a while back, and and as I played, I did like remember the level, So, but yeah, just trying to think about It's I don't know why, and it's because not. It's not that we didn't play it a lot because I could draw you a map of the Zelda One overworld. Remember everything exactly, almost every level. Same thing with Mario or Mario 2 or Mario 3 and stuff. And I don't know that we necessarily played those games any more than we did Wave Race. Maybe we did. I don't know. But I do
Maybe. I think it's
think
just
I
that
do think that when you play,
initial
you
memory.
remember. It's just like when you watch an old TV show, some movie or even an episode of a TV show, and you're like, I forgot this existed. But then as you watch it, like all the stuff just like comes back in your head. You're like, oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, for sure. Well, it's just like you and I were talking the other night. We, a little after the scenes discussion, and you said something about Rambo on the NES, and I couldn't have told you that we ever played that until you said it, and I saw the screenshot of that stupid giant spider, and I was like, I remember that. So yeah, things trigger for sure. But I think you're right. I think those earlier games that we played even at a younger age, or they were like your first experiences, they're just burned in for some reason. Like you just remember them better or more. Plus, I mean, I guess they were a little more. Well, maybe that's the opposite. I don't know. I was going to say maybe they're a little more simple, so it's easy to remember. But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they're a little more unique. Whereas like Wave Race was just like, I don't know, you're just driving in a circle around a bunch of water. So maybe
Right.
maybe it's hard to remember the course.
So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, but it's just a great one. I think that was a good one for both of us to pick at first. There's certain things, lots of memories in gaming. That's why we're doing this. But when I think about things in gaming that stick out in my head, I think about Wave Race. I think about Street Fighter. I think about Mario Kart and or when we used to play World of Warcraft when it first came out and stuff. I mean, there's certain things when you're with your friends, you're with your family, it makes it more special, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll loop back around to some of that too here in a minute. But so because it's very similar to Wave Race, let's talk about my second one and 1080 degree snowboarding. You said you had a specific memory about that game or something like that, other than us competing. What is that?
Well, so I was in college at Purdue when that game came out, and I had done the irresponsible thing that most college students do and signed up for one of those credit cards or something that they're trying to get everyone to sign up for. So I had a credit card and and then 1080 came out and I was like, I'm going to buy that game. I had no money.
With no income.
I had no money. No
source
income.
of income.
No income whatsoever.
Put it on
Here's
the card.
plastic, put it on the card, and charged it and then came home and played it. And you know what? This is just proof. We're nerds. We want everyone else to love what we love. But I remember, so my dorm room was perfectly placed for everybody to kind of see inside of it if I left the door open. It lined up perfectly with the hallway where when people were coming back from the cafeteria, they could see right in there. So I remember leaving the door open on purpose
while he was naked.
While I was playing, while I was in my underwear, playing 1080 degree snowboarding, thinking somebody's going to walk by and be like, oh, he's got that new 1080 degree game. Hey, can I come in? Can I watch you? You're awesome. No, but obviously that wasn't happening. No one cared. No one was watching. And they didn't care. So yeah, I mean, I had no job and I put this on this credit card knowing that, I had no money, period. It's funny, side tangent. I think about it like we have money now. We have jobs, but I think about when we were younger, you didn't always have money and you went places and you did things. Like I can't imagine going somewhere and not really having money. One day, hopefully we'll talk about when I went to E3, which is one of the coolest things I've ever done. But here I am, like 21 years old and not a dollar to my name. And I fly across the country to LA for 3 days. And I think I have like $100 and that's it. No, and not even a credit card, I don't think. I didn't even have that credit card that I bought 1080 with at that point, but but yeah, no, that's a strong memory I have about that game.
Of going into debt to buy 1080-degree snowboarding. Well, other than that, I mean, it's the same thing as Wave Race. I have no memory of like the game itself, other than doing like the downhill, half pipe or whatever they call it, like a stunt course. And same thing, you and I just going back and forth, like, no, there's no way. You can't do better. I did 45 1080s in that run. Like you can't beat that score. And then we would. And I was specifically, I don't know about you, I remember the timing of us playing it, or at least when you like brought it home from college and I was playing it was like Thanksgiving break time area because we were deer hunting. And like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think I had even like maybe I killed a deer or something. I don't remember, but I was in the house while you were still out playing. Like, and I came down there and I was like, "Hey, I beat your score, by the way." And you're like, "God." You were like so mad that I beat that one while you were out there. So anyway, it's very similar to Wave Race for me in that regard.
I feel like I want to play it again because I even less than Wave Race. I remember even less. In fact, when I feel like I try to think of a snowboarding game, I keep picturing SSX,
Yeah,
Tricky or whatever.
I don't even know if I played that.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't play that game together. We had that when I lived with Kevin. We had that game, and we did a little bit of back and forth on that. And I think we had the PS2, and I don't know if Kevin bought it or maybe I brought it home from Software Etc. or something. Borrowed it. I don't remember, but we went back and forth on that a little bit. But I feel like I keep thinking of that game a little bit more than I do 10. And I think didn't 1080 even have a sequel on the GameCube?
Probably.
I think maybe
20,
it did, and then I never played it. We didn't mention Wave Race had a sequel on the
2160.
GameCube. Wave
Yes,
Race
I
had a
don't
sequel on the
remember played that.
GameCube, and it's really good. It is, but I didn't. I mostly just played it by myself. I didn't have a lot of um, competition things going on with it. But
Yeah. No, I don't think I ever played. I mean, if I didn't, I don't think I played the Wave Race sequel. And if 1080 had a sequel, I don't remember playing it either. But to your point, let's just go ahead and move on and talk about your other game of Street Fighter. But I'll just say before we start on that, it's kind of the same thing there. I haven't played a Street Fighter, I don't think, since Street Fighter 2. I mean, maybe like one or two little sessions, and not even that many fighting games since those days, right? I mean, I've played a little bit of other stuff like Marvel versus Capcom. We played that quite a bit on like Dreamcast days or something. But really, since Street Fighter, there hasn't been a heavy fighting game presence for me or whatever. But anyway, you go ahead. You dig into Street Fighter first.
well, Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the Super Nintendo. I mean, lots to remember about that. So I actually bought that game with my own money. And there's a funny story behind that even.
You like bringing up that you bought it with your own money.
Right. Well, because we got so many, we were spoiled. We got so many gifts. We were spoiled. We got so many things from our moms, but so our friend Robert, his grandma had asked me to like bush hog her field next to her house. And she said she would pay me.
That's mowing for you non-farm folk.
Right. Mowing, with a big giant mower behind a tractor. And so guys, I mentioned before we lived on a farm of sorts. I hesitate sometimes to say we were farmers, but we had soybean and corn and some cows. But we, anyways, I didn't really ask my dad's permission if I could do this. Now I knew how to run the tractor and everything on my own, but I just went up there and got the tractor and got a smaller bush hog and went down there and did it. And of course, there was a thorn tree down there, and I got a flat tire, and then I had to call Dad. We had to get that fixed, and probably fixing that tire cost more than than I earned to buy. But anyways, me and Robert both wanted this game really bad. So his grandma said she needed this done. So like I had done it for her. And then she actually took us to Walmart to buy it. Now, everybody's complaining about the cost of games these days. Games being $69.99, rumors of them being more on, the next PlayStation or Switch 2 or whatever. But I paid $69.99 for that game whenever it came out. And this was, I don't know when this was exactly, 1993, 94.
Yeah,
We'd have to look it up. Some of that
90s,
research that we talked about that we're supposed to do, and we didn't. But so, anyways, we wanted that game so bad, and we did that, and we went and she bought it for us, and so we played it, and we put in, learned the code to put it in super turbo mode, Remember that? You had to put in a code.
Oh yeah,
Right.
what kind of cheap crap is that? Why
Because
lock
otherwise
the
it was
extra
only like
speed
it was like
behind?
3 stars, right? And you put in this code and you could put it all the way up at like 10 stars or something like
Yeah,
that, or
why
7
lock that
stars.
behind a code? That makes no
I don't
sense.
know. So, but so yeah, that's how we got it, and we played that a lot. Now, what I remember about this game was you were pretty good at it actually, and you beat me a lot. And I remember one time you'd beat me a bunch, and I was so angry, and I was like, "Oh, now it's time. Now it's time. You're going down." And like I went over to my stereo and I put in some music and I turned it up really loud. And I was like, "Yeah,"
I don't
And
remember
then
that.
I think I lost.
Well, sure, I remember that. Yeah, I remember you. No, I don't. I don't remember you turning out the radio and being mad. Well, I mean, I remember being decent at it. I played as Ryu, I think most of the time or whatever. But I don't remember being like better than you where I won all the time because I remember you pissing me off so bad. You picking M Bison and just doing the Psycho Rush or whatever it's called
Right.
over and over again.
Psycho
I
Crush.
was like,
Yeah. Well,
oh yeah,
that's,
Psycho Crush. Yeah, it's like, are you kidding me? A cheap tactic or whatever. But
right. Well, that's what I had to do to win, obviously, because
yeah,
I would just assume pick Ryu or Ken as well. I mean, they're my
yeah,
favorite players. They're who I play with when I play other Street Fighter games. You mentioned not really being, and we played several fighting games back then. We played Mortal Kombat and some other things, but
oh yeah, yeah,
I wouldn't say that I bought fighting games on the home console, after that. But I did continue to play fighting games, in the arcade. Our friend Jeremy was a manager at the arcade. And so I did a fair amount of playing Tekken and, Street Fighter 3. Actually, I played some Street Fighter 3 at the arcade when I was in Purdue. And then I had my own arcade machine here at the house. And since I have my arcade machine here at the house with my emulator and stuff, I've, of course, played a bunch of Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4, Marvel versus Capcom, and X-Men versus Street Fighter, and all those types of games. Which Marvel
yeah.
versus Capcom is my favorite one of
Oh yeah.
that.
That one was so stinking good. When we played that at the arcade in the mall or whatever, man, Marvel vs. Capcom
Yep.
was the bomb. I loved that one so much. But no, like you said, I mean, we had Street Fighter, we had Killer Instinct, and for the Super Nintendo and for the 64.
Yep.
I had that Primal Rage game on the PlayStation, which I can't say how much we played it, but it was a fighting game.
Well, I remember we kept trying to
monsters.
do the finishing moves were like impossible to do for some reason in that game.
They
I
were
don't know
hard.
why. And
They
we
were
were and one of
ridiculous
them
though
was a
too.
dinosaur like peas on the other dinosaurs, but it's like his peas acid.
I don't remember that to be honest, but I believe it for sure. I just remember what I remember most about that game was that there was like little like villagers, like worshipers, like
Yeah.
walking around on the ground, and you were just like stomping
Mhm.
on them. They were like getting killed while you were fighting. But and you mentioned it the other day when we were just talking off camera. You had that gods like fighting game on the Nintendo 64, and I still don't know the title of that. Do we know the title? Do you remember it?
Was it War Gods? I feel like I
I
need to
think it
look that up
was.
right now.
Yeah, look it up. But I think it was War Gods. I think you're right.
Yep, that's what it was, War Gods. Yep.
There you go, War
And
Gods.
that's and that was an arcade game. That game actually was at Aladdin's Castle or Sultan's Castle after they renamed it. But then we bought it for the N64 as well. Once again, it was mostly because there was such a drip feed of N64 games. So, and actually I was old enough at that time that I had a job and stuff. And so, I was
Finally
like,
pay
oh,
off
there's
that
a new
credit
game.
card.
Here's the one new game that came out. And so I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I can't remember any other fighting games after that other than because to me, Marvel versus Capcom was like the end of the line. And I haven't played any fighting games since really because I don't want to do it not in person. But we'll get there. We're going to talk more about that in a minute when we get there. But okay, well then I guess finally Mario Kart 64. That was another one that we both picked. So hey, we matched 2 out of the 3, so that's pretty cool. And Street Fighter, like I said, was in my head, but I wanted to bring up 1080 just because, like I said, we went back so far on that. The Mario Kart, that was a group affair. Now I'm sure you and I played only us at some points, but yes,
Mhm.
usually it was a 4-player romp. Usually with our good friend Jeremy, who was like a brother to us, and his brother Shane, who was like another brother, extended family, by
Right.
choice, not by blood. But there was tons of other people that we also played with, not just those guys, but they were kind of the main ones. Oh, and Kevin too. Whenever, depending on where we were at the time. But I'm sure like anybody can remember that played games back in those days. It was the Nintendo 64, Nintendo's choice to put four controller ports on the system instead of two was the defining multiplayer, feature of that generation. So,
And it was, that wasn't like that was the first time. I mean, there was an accessory for 4 players on the NES and the Super Nintendo. Almost no games supported it.
and the
Uh,
PlayStation.
and the PlayStation, well, and even the Atari, we talked about the Atari 5200 before. It had the first model of it had 4-player ports. So, it wasn't like it was completely new, but the thing is most games didn't support it. Like, so it's like, "Oh, I've got this thing." In fact, I could be crazy. I should look this up. But I wanna say that there's a football game for the NES. So the NES accessory is called the multi-tap, and I think you could hook 2 of those up and have 8 players
Oh
on
wow.
an NES game. Now, I need to look that up because 'cause I'm probably spouting nonsense right now, but I feel like I
Yeah,
have that memory that it was
I'll
possible
believe you for
with
now.
that one game. But people didn't have that, so it kinda didn't matter that I
Well,
supported it.
even
But the
if you did,
N64.
everyone would have to bring their controllers too, because no one
Right,
just had four
you
or
didn't
eight
have,
controllers sitting around.
but, the 64 made it a very prominent feature, right from the beginning, so people wanted to play, 4-player. So, of course, our first, real challenge of playing Mario Kart 64 is the fact that we were stuck, usually in the bedroom, on our little 13-inch TV we talked about before, and so 4 players on 13. I mean, I don't know how we did it. If you go back and look at that right now, tell me how we even could tell what was going on.
I probably can't with my old eyes, but
But I don't remember complaining about it at all.
well, what
Not
were you gonna
really.
say? What were we gonna complain about? What were you gonna say? Oh, Mom, Dad, I need a bigger TV for the four players. I mean, there wasn't anything we could say, and we just didn't know any different. I mean, we
Right.
had the occasional friend. You probably had a couple. I know I had a couple where like, at their house, maybe they had a bigger screen TV. But even the friends that had bigger screen TVs compared to the ones we had at our home, they didn't usually play games on them. That was like the main living room TV, and they had their little bedroom TV. And you just have to know if you're younger out there watching this, you couldn't get 55 and 60-inch flat screens for like $200 from TCL and Vizio brands and stuff like that. In fact, the flat screens didn't even exist at the time, right? We had the huge fat tube
Right.
TVs and
I
and
mean,
stuff like that.
you had the occasional friend that had what we call rear projection TVs that could be 50 inches,
Right.
and they worked kind of like a projector. They really looked terrible. If anyone was honest about it, the picture was horrendous. But you were just like, "Well, I'm watching the basketball game on 50 inches or whatever," and so that kinda made up for it, but most time, the biggest TV anyone had was 27 inches, 27-inch CRT, and so it didn't matter where you go really or how much money they had, no one really had a TV bigger than that, hardly ever,
Right. Or certainly
until we
not in our
started getting
area.
into these,
Maybe if you were in
uh
Hollywood.
right, exactly. Well, they were too big. They were heavy. CRTs were glass. They got the big tube on them, and it just wasn't the same, but once they got flat, we got the LCDs, we got plasmas and all that, it became, easier, more reasonable to think about it. And now it seems silly. No one has a small television. Not when you go to Sam's Club or Costco, and like you said, there's like a 50-inch TV for like $280, and it may not be the best TV. You can still obviously drop a lot of money on a Sony Bravia or whatever, but, it was just a different time. So 13 inches television, but I'm sure Justin wants to talk about, occasionally when my mom and dad wasn't home, we would take that N64 and we would go and hook it up in the living room. So we had that little bit bigger TV, which
Yeah.
might have been
21.
27 inches. It
No,
was
it was
21 or
21.
27.
It was 21. I,
Um
I know for sure it was 21.
but
Yeah.
that seemed ginormous compared to the 13-inch television,
Yeah.
and our couch was in a way that it was kind of off to the side. It wasn't, like, directly in front of the television like my dad's recliner was, and so we moved that couch so we were directly in front of it,
Yeah.
and then we proceeded to play I mean, we would play, of course, Battle, but we also would just do all the courses, and we'd go through them all. Remember, we would go through every single course,
Oh yeah.
and then
All
we
the
would go through every
cups.
single reverse course. And all the
I
cups and
don't.
everything.
I don't even hardly remember the
The
reverse course,
mirror.
but
The mirror,
yeah.
remember? The mirrors. Like, so when you
Right.
played
No, I know you
Toad's.
could do it, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't.
Because
I wouldn't.
remember Toad's.
That wouldn't have come off the top of my head.
Right.
You
Toad's
know.
Turnpike in reverse, like, the cars are just coming right at you constantly, and you
Oh
get hit,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, see, because that's what's funny because Mario Kart, like Mario Kart, what is it, 8 Deluxe, whatever on the Switch, like
right.
I haven't played Mario Kart really since, again, Mario Kart 64, you know? And I know there's people that play the current one now like crazy. And it's got like, I don't know, there's like 100 plus courses or something like that. It's ridiculous. There's a ridiculous amount. And the couple times I have played it, like my brother in law has it at his house. And like a couple times I tried to play it with my niece and nephew over there, and they just murder me. I don't know what's going on. When we played, of course, different characters had different like accelerations at different speeds, but not like now. Now there's the character, the cart, the motorcycle or whatever, and a different stats on your like paraglider that comes out. I don't know. There's too much going on. It's like just give me Yoshi and let me go, baby.
Now, like we talked about with the fighting games, I mean, I did play, most of the Mario Karts in between there, and I agree, Mario Kart 64, that's just people always ask me, "What's your favorite game ever?" Or "What's the best game ever?" too, a lot of times, and that's a hard answer to give. I don't know. We'll
Well,
have
yeah,
an
of
episode
course.
about that maybe, and I don't know what I'll say. It's a hard answer, but I will often say, if you're talking about what game did I have the absolute most fun with,
Yeah.
it's it's probably Mario Kart 64. We just
Yeah.
had
It's
such
definitely
great
high on the
times
list.
there. But I had Mario Kart 7 for the DS, and I had Mario Kart, well, Double Dash for the GameCube, which I like that game a lot. That's another one, it's on the lower of the list, but I like it. I think Double Dash was fun. You had 2 characters, and you got to switch back and forth and hold more items, and then I had Mario Kart for the I had them all, but I don't think and I played all of them to completion, but I don't think I had as much fun with any of them as I did that. Now we'll see. It looks like they're hinting that the next Mario Kart might be a launch title for the Switch too. So maybe we'll have to make a special effort to get together and play it. See if we can't recreate some of those great memories and different stuff. I don't know whether it's funny. We all are calling it Mario Kart 9, but it might technically be Mario Kart 10 because do you count the Mario Kart that came out for the iPhone? I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Sorry.
I don't know. Well, the rules have gone out the door, because what the sixth Rocky movie is called Rocky. It's not called Rocky 6, it's called Rocky. We had the Fast and the Furious, and later on you had the Fast and the Furious,
Or was it the other
you
way
know?
around? I
Or
think it
well,
was the
yeah,
other way around.
either way. But the point is, all the rules are out the window, so who knows what they'll
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah, you don't have to have numbers on things anymore. No, I agree with you. Well, and like you said, I mean, just real quick again, we mentioned Jeremy and his brother Shane that were like brothers to us, and our friend Kevin and some other guys that are also like brothers to us. Uh, I mean, man, like you mentioned once about Jeremy like almost dying from laughing, and that was and how that game is to you is probably the most fun you've had in a game, and I agree, it's high up there with me. The only other game that might compete with it when it comes to fun was GoldenEye, and that was between me and my friends like that, like
Right.
my age group or whatever. But either way, it's so high on that list, man. We played Mario Kart so much. I have a distinct memory one time of a I don't know if you remember this. So our town has a local, what they call the Apple Festival. It's like a little carnival type thing once a year. And so one of the booths had Mario Kart 64 one year. And obviously I'd played it so much already. Why would I pay money to play it? Well, to win. That's why. A couple other guys were like, oh, we'll play it. And so, yeah, I paid like $1 to play. And I smoked them. I smoked them good. Of course, I think one of the times we played, was it Wario? I think it was Wario, like the dirt track or something.
Yeah,
It was like
Wario
his
Stadium.
arena.
And you
Yeah.
could
And
skip over. Remember you
yeah,
could jump
I
over
hit the wall and I
the
skipped over the thing or whatever. That one was always a little easier. The stupid Rainbow Road shortcut
yeah,
was a wild card, man. You'd jump
couldn't
off the
get or
course and then you'd miss it, and then you just go into the wild beyond. Oh
and the
man,
Mario Kart Speedway shortcut also was so imprecise that a lot of times just I
yeah.
remember, so during that early time we were playing it, we weren't really friends with Kevin yet. Because I knew Kevin from school, but we didn't hang out then. But when we played a little bit later on, and I don't know if you remember, like the first time we go to play that, then me and you both like jump over the wall, and Kevin immediately like, "What is this crap? No, we're not
Yeah,
cheating. We're not doing
dirty,
this."
dirty cheaters. No, we probably shouldn't have. That wasn't fair if we didn't call it, but that's okay. Well, we'll probably get close to wrapping up in a minute, but I do want to at least talk about something else. But before we do that, if you're still watching, that means you like it. So hit the like button, right? Hit the like button and leave us a comment. Tell us what you're
Mhm.
if you got competitive games, whether it was with a sibling, a friend, a group of friends, whatever, hit us up. Let us know. and we appreciate you watching. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with this is that just in the vein of competition, and I kind of mentioned this the other day. I don't know how you feel. Probably the same as me because we're both old fogies. But like young people today, you don't know. In my opinion, you don't know what you're missing. I agree that online gaming is awesome. I play a lot of online games still. Like Jacob mentioned, we played World of Warcraft. I still play World of Warcraft every once in a while. I got that game when it came out in college on day one. I was a junior in college, and I still play it some to this day. So if you're keeping track, that's like 20 years. And I played Diablo and all sorts of online games, but nothing matches like sitting on the couch with four of your buddies in the same room and just laughing, man, and laughing hardcore and punching each other and whatever was required.
Remember? So we didn't mention this on Mario Kart. We should have. Yeah, Justin's already knows what I'm talking about. So, we're playing. We're playing, and I'd been winning most of the race, and clearly I thought I'm going to win. The race is almost over, and I just right at the end, boom, red shell, boom, red shell, boom, red shell. And all of a sudden I go from first to last, practically on the finish line. And I was just like, "Dah!" And I was like, I earned that.
No,
and they were all making fun of me.
It was the most babyish voice he ever put on. And he said, no, I think you said you deserved it. You said, I deserved that. I earned it or whatever. Oh man, we laughed and laughed. Yeah. But that's how Mario Kart was. And it's how it still is, it's the luck of the draw, and the guy in the front always gets the bananas, and the guy in last always gets the lightning bolt and the blue shell or whatever.
No, that's what keeps it competitive. And your friends, like you said, I agree. Online gaming is great. It's amazing now that we're adults and we live different places. We could hop online and play with each other, and those were our Warcraft memories, and that was great. But it doesn't replace. And Nintendo feels pretty strongly about that, and they've said that. Miyamoto has said several times he feels pretty strongly about. And that's why it took them so long to jump into the online space, because they felt like it was a shared thing. But Justin mentioned GoldenEye. We didn't play that as much together. He played with his friends a lot more, but he was a GoldenEye god. I mean, he just destroyed everybody. And although I wonder how you would do if you all had your own screens, because you were cheap. It was like you could just look at a person's screen and you instantly knew where they were on the map.
I was going to say that. That was part of the boon of the boon and the curse of the local multiplayer was, yes, it was games like GoldenEye. I could see your screen. And some people would say, well, don't look at the screen. It's almost impossible not to. Like you said,
it's only 13-inch screen.
If you're playing on a 13-inch TV or even a 21-inch TV, it's almost impossible not to just your peripheral vision, right, to see the other person's screen. So yes, I played GoldenEye enough that if I just glanced at you, I knew exactly where you were, which direction you were heading, whatever. I'd pop out, get you. But yeah, I loved me some GoldenEye.
And then we played a lot of Smash Brothers for the 64, and on other Smash Brothers too. But the 64. Justin and his friends played that a lot, and I would join in with them sometimes. And I remember we were at my cousin Jared's house one night. It's like we stayed up all night playing Smash Brothers, and that's the same thing too. Like you're thinking you're winning, you think you beat someone, and then they got Yoshi, and they,
hell yeah, he's coming back. How do you make it over the ledge? I love that Yoshi.
So we had great times with that, and like I said, me and Kevin, F-Zero X, it's what I miss, man. If I could that's the one thing, kind of roll back in time. If I could have all of us together.
Well, if we can, if this podcast can take off a little bit, one of these days we'll do it. We'll hook up a system and we'll get some of us in the same room and we'll record it.
And we'll live stream it.
That stuff. Well, I don't know about that because there'll probably be some stuff we got to edit out.
Well, we just have to beep it. Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. Somebody better have their finger on the button. But no, great times, man. Like I said, I don't think you can get that back. And other than strictly online games like World of Warcraft, I haven't played a lot of multiplayer games like that, to be honest, since those Nintendo 64 days. I mean, I haven't. There was some GameCube games that some friends and I played in college, but not like we did hardcore stuff like that. So,
like you said, the summary is just like, unfortunately, it probably ain't coming back, but we have those memories. And they're great. And I kind of feel a little bit sad that a lot of the kids today don't necessarily have that.
Yeah. No, so just, if I don't know if they'll ever see this, but from both of us, we'll just give a quick shout out to, to Kevin, Robert, Jeremy, Shane, the other Jeremy, Smiley, Jared, Bobby, Grant, I'm sure I'm leaving some people out, but those are a lot of names, man, that we played with. Or hell, even in college, I played with Chance and Drew and Carrie and whoever. So if you ever watch this, thanks for the memories.
I just randomly saw like a pop up on Facebook that it was Glenn's birthday.
Glenn,
I wouldn't even
Glendon, by the
remember.
way,
I
official
wouldn't
name,
even I wouldn't
Glendon.
even remember that he was my friend on Facebook. I don't know that he would know who I was if we crossed each other on the
He might
road
not
or
know
up the
me. I
street,
don't
you
know,
know.
man. It's been a
But
long time.
yeah, lots of people, great memories.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's it for this episode, guys. So thanks for watching. Like we said, leave a comment. Let us know your digital memories or any competitive memories you have, and hit the like button. Did I say that already? I might have already said that. We'll
Yeah,
edit this.
like, subscribe, do all the things that you're supposed to
Yeah.
do for a
Yeah.
YouTube video.
Ring that bell, as they always say, or whatever the crap. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
All right, take it easy.